And welcome to the latest edition of the 941 Sports Zone. We're all the way up to episode 36.
Got it in my
Hard to
book.
believe.
36 it says. That's the truth.
Yes, that is the truth. I am Spitz. You are heading to the Keys, Masoni.
Annual trip, Rich. I got my buddies and I went high school buddies, and we still managed to make our way down there. There's been some minor breaks in where maybe wasn't a full complement of old friends, but it's been good to go down at least once a year and get to enjoy the casualness. I'll put it to you that way: the casual nature of the Florida Keys. There'll be a little golfing, there'll be a little boating, be a lot of eating, and maybe a few drinks. It just depends.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
The 941 Sports Zone, presented as always by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. Give them a call at 941-251-4257. That's 941-251-4257. For those of you who normally see us live on Monday, we're a day late. Have some things going on in life that just couldn't be put on the back burner. But we got a couple of extra things to talk about, actually, with an extra day.
And to really think about it, that we have been able to sort of, for 35 weeks, be on the same day is pretty miraculous in some ways. It's just anything, a power outage, anything could have done it. But things happen sometimes, and we just keep pressing that button and keep going wherever we can.
All right, we're going to start with the Florida High School Athletic Association baseball playoffs. We had 4 teams in the 941 that were alive. We still have 2. Both the top seeds advanced to the regional semis. Venice, no surprise there. 6-0 over Sumner. I believe a no-hitter was thrown in that game.
It was a no-hitter. I was actually there, Rich.
Oh, were you?
Yes, okay. I did go. And no-hitter was it wasn't like your prototypical no-hitter. 17 strikeouts.
Wow.
And some walked batters and a few little odds and ends, but a no-doubter as far as the game was concerned. Venice Indian bats weren't maybe as productive as they had been the last couple of weeks, but to be expected. Really, the Sumner threw their top pitcher who's I heard has got a scholarship to FGCU. So
really?
So you were looking at it, and that one and done that we talked about last week was a concern for the crowd, to say the least. And then Venice put a lot of pressure on him again. Got guys on base, scored 2 runs, big home run in the middle innings to kind of extend the lead, and then a couple extra runs to kind of solidify the 6-0 win.
Carter Cox spun the no-hitter for Venice. He's been their best pitcher this year, and certainly Venice left nothing on the plate, especially when you consider that the next round, the regional semis, don't begin until Friday of this week. So you could throw your one, and then you could turn around and throw your one again if you want.
Yeah, everybody's available, and you have the format that is I do like it, although I can tell you that there's probably a lot of people because if the third game is sort of an interesting scenario, but Friday night, Saturday afternoon is the second game by the higher seeded team. And then if even 1-1, they play right after that.
Yes,
there'll be a doubleheader, and so depth is a big part of that because it's going to be we're getting into May now, so we don't see too many 70s, let alone but at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's more 85, 88 kind of degree kind of days, and it can be a boiler. Although I will say most of these kids have come up through the travel ball situations where they play baseball games all day long, all weekend long. So not unfamiliar territory for a lot of these kids playing high school baseball.
No question about it. So Venice will play George Jenkins. As you mentioned, it's a best of 3. First game Friday at 7. Second game Saturday at 1. And as you said, if necessary, game 3 30 minutes after they get the field dragged and everything going there. Charlotte was also the top seed in their region, Class 5A Region 3. They beat Gulf Coast 4-1, and they will face East Bay, Tampa East Bay, in a best-of-3 regional semifinal, also beginning Friday at Tarpon Stadium. I'm sure that's the name of the football field. I don't know what they call the baseball field, and I do apologize, but nonetheless, it'll be in Charlotte, and same scenario, 7 o'clock on Friday, 1 o'clock on Saturday, and if there's a game 3, it'll be 30 minutes afterwards. The other 2 teams from the area didn't do so well. In 4A, Lemon Bay saw their season come to an end as they fell to a juggernaut in Tampa Jesuit 14-0, while Port Charlotte suffered the same fate and a 10-0 loss to Osceola. Both those teams' seasons is over, but they had good season and made it into the regional. So congratulations to both Lemon Bay and Port Charlotte. And good luck to both Venice and Charlotte as they move on in the FHSA playoffs. One thing they do here with all the best-of-3 series, John, it makes the playoffs a full month, maybe even a touch more, because if I'm not mistaken, the FHSA championships, which are at Hammond Stadium in Fort Myers this year,
yes,
home of the Twins, I think is May 19th to the 23rd. So it kind of stretches things out a little bit.
Yeah, it may actually be even shorter than that. It was a couple of things that I was hearing that may even be like the weekend of May 16th. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. I really don't know. But honestly, it does drag it out to a little bit. Makes it a little bit of a longer season, like you said. But once again, it's opportunity to be fair. I do like the idea that you're not going to. They got one and done scenario out of the way, but when they're all one and dones, it really makes it hard. You never want to say it's tough on the top seed or the better team. But in baseball, all you need is a guy who can throw. In high school, this is not a 95, and he's on it that night, and there you go, season over, and you went 26-1 or 23-3 or something so to that. But I don't dislike the format. I just think that you're right. It could end up going a little longer than most, but I think they'll work that out.
Graduation, I think, happens before the finals, doesn't it?
It might be. I know there's been some times there's been some odd things with rain, games that couldn't be played because it was starting at midnight, and then it was if you didn't start at midnight, that made some players eligible. There was a whole bunch of things that went on similar to that. I don't mind. Again, I don't mind this chance to try to do something different. So I'll see how it plays out this year, and if it does sort of bleed into other important events.
All right, the 941 Sports Zone is presented, as always, by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. 941-251-4257. 941-251-4257. They are locally owned and they are nationally backed. That gives them the opportunity to do the best there is for roofing in homes and businesses up and down the Gulf Coast. Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. One more time, that phone number, 941-251-4257. NFL draft came and went, John. Boy, that third day, that's a long day going 4 rounds. Even though you're going rapid fire with the picks, still 4 rounds. It's still a ton of picks. I love the teams that had more than 7 picks in the draft. It's a 7-round draft. So teams like Cleveland, I thought Cleveland, and again, we're not going to do grades because you're not going to know for 2 or 3 years exactly how the players are going to turn out. But at least as far as bodies, Cleveland, the Raiders, your Jets, who had 3 first-round picks, I thought they did very well. They had, the kid Bailey, I believe, the defensive end, taken with the 2nd pick. Then they got the tight end, which kind of fell into their lap because the Buccaneers couldn't believe that Reuben Bain Jr. was available at 15. They were ready to take the kid out of Utah. And so he fell right into the Jets' lap, and the Jets need help at that position. And then at 30, remind me, I think they went with a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's Cooper, right. The kid from Indiana. Yeah.
Yes. who made the miraculous catch against Penn State in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, that's the one.
He's a little bit of an acrobat, very, very good receiver. So the Jets, I thought, did very well. Philly, boy, the most interesting part of the draft, and I'm not sure if we've heard the end of it because there is some serious controversy going on. The Eagles ended up taking the kid out of USC.
Makai Lemon.
Yeah, Lemon. And they ended up taking him apparently as he was on the phone with the Steelers, who were the next pick, which is not supposed to be legal.
Right.
The Eagles traded up. It's obvious now that A.J. Brown's gone June 1st. I mean, if you had any doubt in your mind by them moving up and taking Makai Lemon, John, that tells you everything you need to know right there. Lemon is an interesting receiver. He makes the acrobatic, but at times, people think he loafs a little bit. So this will be an interesting pick and how he moves into that spot. I thought Baltimore had 11 picks, new coach. He gets a chance to have a lot of bodies. Speaking of a lot of bodies, how about Miami? 13 picks. And they need it. They got $130+ million of dead cap space. So you need to pay, you need to have all these rookies. A lot of them are going to end up starting for them, John.
Yes. And going back to what you said earlier, it's going to be part of my ending of the show. But you're talking about grades and whatever. You're really never going to know. I mean, did anybody think Tom Brady was going to be who he became after being a 6th-round draft pick? You can go back and see that there's always going to be probably the best players are not even won't even be the 1st-round pick. It'll be somebody that got picked 2nd, 3rd, 4th round in a lot of cases. But all it is, for me, it's always been about how you utilize the draft, how your strategy going into it. Okay. And while I think that like Miami has to get bodies, as many as they could, I sometimes you just wonder that how many of those picks were just to make picks, because it's hard to get rid of 7th-round draft picks or 6th-round draft picks to move up or down or whatever it may be. So watching some of the teams strategically make moves was very interesting to me. And then I did like some of the teams that needed help. Like you mentioned, Cleveland. Everybody seems to really love Cleveland. I think Cleveland had a good draft. The Jets, like you said as well, a really good draft. The Raiders, obviously getting their quarterback of the future and filling some other roles there. But the idea is that they're adding players to teams that won 3 games last year.
Correct.
So while you'd love to think there's some magic elixir that you can go out and get 11 guys, and that's the 11 guys you needed, and you're going to be a contender. It isn't necessarily the case. And I'll use Miami again. I don't know where Miami is starting from. I don't know where they're at. It's a very hard thing to figure out to see which way they're headed. So even with all those picks, when everybody gets into town and starts doing OTAs and whatnot, it's going to be a real work in progress for them. So we'll see how that works out in particular. But I didn't see a lot of teams get like bad marks for their draft.
Right.
I saw a lot of A's and B's and B minuses and whatnot like that. So because really, if you filled the need, check. If you got the most talented guy left on the board, check. If you got the guy who slid down and you could steal somebody, check. So those are all strategic moves you can make, and each team can take advantage of that. Now it's going to be whether they got the right guys at the right positions, and like you said, you'll know down the road who it really did win that draft.
Yeah, Baltimore thought it was interesting with 11 picks. They're not a bad team. They were on the cusp of making the playoffs. They're made field goal away from being in the playoffs. So they definitely, and again, a new regime in Baltimore. So a chance to put, the coaching staff to put their stamp on that. Reuben Bain Jr., the kid from Miami that dropped to the Bucks at 15. I'll tell you what, all you have to do is show his video from the time he got picked to the time he went up there. And, that was one pissed off individual.
Didn't stop at the mirror to look at himself and preen for the camera. Grabbed it and was effing his way out to the fans, and he was all about it, And that that kid is come from a winning background. Miami Central High School, they win. They're top notch. They're top 10
every year
half the time. Public school, they have a tradition down there with them. And Miami Northwestern goes to University of Miami. And look, if you really want to think about it, he's not the prototype. If he was the prototype body, hands, measurables, he would have been the second pick in the draft, more than likely. But the motor, the tenacity, the dog in him, if you want to call it that, you can see it on the field. He has, I guess, there's always, they find these stats out, and I may not be quoting this exactly right, but he had like the shortest arms of anybody
30 inches
in like 25 years or something like that, or ever at that position. 30-inch arms. But again, they showed his repertoire of moves, which I think is good because he's already had to figure out how to get around a guy who's bigger than him, longer arms than him. So he figured it out in college. So now when he goes up to the pros, they're going to be all going to be that big and they're all going to be that good. But he's already figured out how to do it. So there's something to that in his production level. His thing is going to be where he fits in Todd Bowles' defense.
Right.
Because it looks to me like the Buccaneers have been the place where defensive ends go to die. Because every time they get the next guy, they really haven't done much with it since Shaq Barrett. I think that's about the last guy who did anything in a Todd Bowles type of defense. But they don't seem to develop them. It's been sort of frustrating to watch the whole D line. Every year it's Vita Vea, and he is a unbelievable run stopper, and he's hard to block, but he doesn't play a lot. His productivity is when he is on the field. So I don't know if that's a design situation or if player injuries. I know that's a good part of it, but really want to see what Todd Bowles is able to do with a guy who is going to be an undersized rush end if he doesn't decide to drop him into coverage or something like that, which I think would be a huge mistake on a regular basis. I think he's a hand on the ground guy and very tough to stop.
The Rams did something that I'm still scratching my head, and it's been almost a week now. And obviously this was your lock of the week that didn't come through because the Rams at 13 took Ty Simpson. And there's some conjecture going back and forth. They're all in lockstep now, but when McVay was interviewed night of and the morning after the draft, he didn't look very happy.
He was pissed, and there's no doubt about it. And I'm going to tell you this. So this is where I'm going to take my lock for a second here, because this is going to be something that I expand on. Because and I'll just give you the overview. The whole thing stinks. It stinks of something. I don't even know what it is, but there's some things that happen along the way that people were told to lie. People were told to do this. People were told that this is the route we're taking, whatever it may be. And as you start looking at all the things that were said, and then now they're all so they're in lockstep. You can almost figure out, if you're a junior detective or a junior Sherlock Holmes, you could figure out what happened and how they all got to this point where they're all saying, no, this is going to be a great deal. We're happy to have gotten a top 13 pick for a backup quarterback. Maybe.
Well, so, they think he's the quarterback of the future, and he's going to get a chance to sit.
So here's the thing: who's they? Is it
the Rams?
Right. Well, again, all I heard was, this solidifies how great he is, how good he's going to be, because Sean McVay would never take a guy unless he was great, and is going to make him great. Then we fast forward 2.5 hours after the pick, and there's an angry head coach sitting next to his GM, and you're like, oh, well, maybe Sean McVay didn't have something to do with this. So I'll leave it at that. We'll see how it goes. But
no
yeah,
question about it.
There's something to it.
And that's a win now team to take a quarterback that you're probably not going to see for a couple of years.
That's
they didn't have it. They didn't have very many picks to begin with.
Think about this. You took the chance of pissing off the MVP of the league, okay, who's got gas in the tank, no doubt about it. You needed players. Puka Nacua is hurt, and he's a rehab
He's
guy.
in rehab. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
He's got troubles. You've got an iffy sort of it's a shaky group. Let's just say that. And I know they traded with the Chiefs and got McDuffie at corner. Great. Everybody played the free agent game. They're like, wow, that was a great deal. What a wonderful idea. Everybody did it. Everybody went out and got somebody in free agency. At least they tried to. So, but that's not the case. You could have added a lot of different kind of pieces to that situation. And by the way, I'm going to let it out again, how you do the draft. Why the hell would you have to go get him at 13? Okay.
Right.
Was it worth
Trade
that
down,
much?
get picks. Yeah.
Go get picks. Get him at 30. Get him at 27. You could have got picks and then said, oh, it's coming up. Move up again. You did nothing. You can't tell me at 13 you couldn't have got somebody to come up. You had players on the board that people were like, oh, this guy dropped. You were at prime time. That's what you decided to do. It's beyond stupid. And I'm going to use that word, stupid. You can twist it and turn it any way you want. But I saw the look on that head coach's face, and he thought stupid is what he thought.
Yeah. And not a call from the quarterback to Ty Simpson, but the quarterback's wife.
Yeah.
on draft night. Another interesting.
I'm telling you, there's so many. And they're gonna try to tamp it down. And the thing about it is this, Rich, they can sit back for 2 years and say, no, he's on course. Everything's great. No problem. Know when you're going to know if he's any good? The first time he gets to start, if he does, and there's no more Matthew Stafford.
Right.
And you say, here's the team we built. You're the guy. Go out there and be an MVP candidate. I don't see it at all.
Definitely a reach, in my opinion. So there you go. That's kind of we don't want to go totally into the draft, but just those are just some of the finer points. And look forward to OTAs. The next thing, I guess, is the schedule release that'll be coming up right around I want to say the 12th. May 11th.
Coming up. I know that ESPN's already advertising it. I was watching
absolutely,
and they're like, because they bought that deal from the NFL Network when they bought it, because that was their little big to do about who played. I mean,
ESPN did 3 hours last year too, so don't be.
Yeah, but and like it's silly. You know, 6 of the games you're going to play, right? And then what everybody wants to see is who plays on Monday night, who plays on Sunday night. It's that stuff. It's not really who you're playing. It's because you already kind of know you're already lined up with another team from the other conference. So that's going to be four games. So now you got 10 games. So I get it. But it's just another opportunity to try to sell beer or chips.
941 Sports Zone, presented as always by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. The good folks over there, 941-251-4257 is the number. Hurricane season starts in about a month. Hard to believe, even though the forecasts really calling for a very strong El Nino, which is supposed to be good for you guys down there, John.
It is.
It only takes one. We talked about that, and unfortunately, a couple of years ago there were 2, 3. Actually,
so I'll say this to you: we're expecting some weather this weekend, and they never really get too far ahead of themselves, but. They made a comment today that the strong upper level wind, the west to east upper, which to me that's El Nino, it's starting early. So they said you don't usually see these winds pop up until the fall, but now they're coming early spring, maybe a precursor to a strong El Nino. However, if you look at the weather that we're going to have this weekend, what it shows you is how hurricanes form in the Gulf of Mexico, just like Milton and Ian and all the other ones that we had, where they ride a front coming down from or riding those winds and catching some of that cool air, and it stalls out and a low forms, and next thing you know, it's a rocket ship on a train track to the west coast of Florida. So yeah, don't become too comfortable with the idea that you may not see a bunch of named storms or that it's going to be calm in the Atlantic Basin. There's a lot of volatile weather that can pop up from Mexico, the Caribbean, you name it. Low pressure is out there all the time. So we shall see. Get your water, get your plan, get your boards, whatever you do, and be ready to go.
Guys need that rain, though. It looks like a lot of the state is in a drought right now. So a little soaking rain won't hurt anyone.
It's not devastating at this point. Okay. But you can see as each day goes by without having we had a little rain yesterday, but again, expect to have a good rain on Sunday. So we'll see if that is the case. One or two rains of an inch or two here or there in May is a huge difference. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a ginormous difference because it'll start percolating that moisture in the ground, and off we go.
And there's your Weather Channel portion of our
absolutely brought to you by Mighty Dog Roofing.
That's right. That's right. Couple of things we got to add, being a day later than usual this week. Some news came out of Lubbock, Texas. Apparently, the transfer QB, the well thought of and well sought Brendan Sorsby, is being investigated for gambling and adding fuel to the fire. He's reportedly entered into a residential treatment program for a gambling addiction. Now, if the NCAA rules that he bet, especially if you bet on, college football, which is alleged when he was at Indiana in 2022,
right,
he's probably not going to be eligible. And he was due, reports say, a $5 million paycheck from Texas Tech. John, I know you've been talking about this. Let me just set you up here. Good. You've been talking about this a lot in our episodes about the gambling and, when is it going to rear its ugly head and when is it going to have a major effect? Here we go.
And you look at it and you say to yourself, it's the career college football quarterback. And I say that because that's all their career is going to be, is college football, right? They're going to try to cash in, do whatever they can. And they're not a guy who's looking to cash in on his own talents, so to speak, is also the guy who's going to cash in on the daily bets, the betting on his game, betting on his team, betting on who's going to score the next basket or whatever it may be, right? All these different daily things. And that's the guy you're going to get, the guy who's the career. He knows that he's trying to salvage a mediocre to average to mediocre college career. He's going to go cash in at Texas Tech, and he feels like he's an untouchable. And who's going to find out? But I heard some things today, Rich, about how they can track these kids. They have to sign some paperwork, and they have an app that they have to apply to that tells them if they're actually going to be, where they're at and if they are betting or whatever it may be. So these guys are got to be real careful about it. It's not worth a small amount of, it's not worth betting on something for $100 or getting caught up with some roommates or whatever it may be. It's just not worth it. If you are a guy who's going to have opportunities in sports, if you don't and you don't care and you're just riding out the string, then be my guest, because you'll get thrown off the team and then you'll be whatever you're going to be at that point. You can say, well, I could have been a contender, but I decided to become a gambler instead.
Well, apparently, like I said, he's addicted, and he was thought to be one of those that if he had a good year would be in part of that unbelievable quarterback class that's supposed to happen next year. But instead now he is in rehab, and I personally think this is just the tip of the iceberg. And you know who polices this the best, John? Vegas.
Yeah.
Is the reason they have all of these things and have had it for years in place when they see something go a little bit wonky, a little bit, doesn't make any sense, they alert the authorities, they alert the leagues. I mean, it's this should be a cautionary tale. If anybody's out there and wants to throw a few shekels and think, they're not going to catch me, okay, sure.
I'd like to say one thing. I'd like to think that everything that Vegas is doing to keep things on the up and up are altruistic, but they're really about them getting screwed by somebody else. Correct. They're making sure that they're protecting their own interests by narking everybody else out. Okay, they don't want anybody to figure out how to fix the system or rig. They're nonstop checking on if anybody's fixing the system. You know what I mean? All the time, because trillions of dollars a year is just not enough. At that point, and getting more and more people addicted to gambling is not enough either. So I do appreciate their policing and keeping things the way they are, but we know it's only about.
Boy, do I sense some sarcasm there? Woo!
Well, again, it's funny because I watch, and I don't know what you run across with, how do I put this? Naive gamblers, okay? And when I say naive, I'm talking about kids, okay, that have access to these apps, who can do these things, and I'll put a kid as 18 to 32, because sometimes you never grow up until you figure it out, and 32 is right. People figure, but they're doing all the time is saying, "Oh, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that?" And I'll try to express an opinion that's an informed opinion, and they don't want to hear it. They just want to say, "You pick." They think everything's a 50-50 proposition. It's not. And right. The one thing that nobody understands, especially these young guys, is there's juice in it. You have to win 70% of the time to make money. You know how many times that happens? Not a lot. Not a lot. Now I would say this. I truly believe that there are people who are smart gamblers. They look at things, they don't bet on everything and anything on every night of the week.
Right.
But they have little formulas they use. I do this, whatever it may be. They probably ride the wave at a decent clip and keep themselves ahead of the game and get an entertainment value out of it as well. But the idea that these guys are just like, hey, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's no different now. Gambling has become the gambling I see in a lot of cases is equal to the your wife joining the fantasy football league and picking players because she likes the uniforms, or the board at the Super Bowl party where you randomly throw some stuff up there and like, ooh, I have 8-1, I won, like they won something, they did something. To me, it has the same mentality. They don't know. They look at a player, they do whatever. And Rich, we sit here, we're avid sports fans. I listen to it all day. I watch it on TV, whatever it may be. I'm into it. I can't figure that shit out. Why would somebody who just knows somebody because he's on Instagram and think that that's my guy and he's the one, or they figure, well, LeBron James is the best player in the NBA, so I'm just going to keep on betting on LeBron. I don't know, but I get asked questions and I get certain things and I'm like, you really don't even know what you're asking me. If I gave you the answer, it would be like I was speaking Greek. You don't know because all you're looking to do is throw money at something, and then when you win, you think you're smarter than your buddy, and that's a dangerous proposition. You're going to have the more people exposed, the more people are going to become addicted.
Yeah, no question about it. So, all right, so there we have that story, and what's going to come next. Be very interesting to see how this plays out. Some people think that Sorsby, if things don't go his way, he might take it into the court system. This has so many layers, it's not even funny. And let's just leave it at that.
Yes, I agree.
College basketball came out late on Tuesday that apparently, John, we're going to expand the tournament. Basically, the story I read is, it's still got to go through this committee and that committee, But then in the same story, basically all the people that were quoted was just saying it's a formality. So, and we talked about this when the tournament was here. There was hardly any controversy whatsoever about this year's field because the bubble was so weak. So now we're going to add 8 teams. So like an Auburn, who was 17-16 in the regular season, probably makes the tournament,
right?
As opposed to playing in the NIT and winning the NIT. Congratulations, Tigers, and all their fans. But I don't. It's watering down an already watered down product is the way I see it, and I just think it's. I mean, and 76. When does that become 96? And when does 96 become everybody's in? Because I have a funny feeling, and it'll be after you and I are gone, but I have a funny feeling we're going to get to that point where, all right, we'll just throw all the balls up and all 300 and whatever teams will play, and we'll narrow it down that way. I don't know. I don't think there's any more need, and the need is greed.
Football, basketball, and baseball. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna start at baseball. The SEC, which is we're talking about conferences now. This is about big conferences. This is not about the little guy. The little guy already got his invitation. Okay. But it's about the big guy. And what they're going to say is the 4 power conferences are going to have at least 10 guaranteed slots. Just like you see in, hey, the 4th team in the SEC plays the 4th team in the Big Ten at the Outback Bowl or whatever it may be.
Right.
So you're going to see that. Okay. Baseball. How many teams from the SEC make the baseball tournament?
14. Last year, almost the whole conference did.
Right.
Literally.
So you see what I'm saying, right? That's everybody's in, like you said. Okay. Then what about basketball? Representation wasn't quite there for the ACC in football or basketball like they did. And they didn't, and they crapped the bed. They didn't deserve to be there. But that doesn't make a difference because they want the pot. They want the slice of the pie. They want the money. So they're going to say, okay, ACC, you get 8 locks or whatever it may be. You're going to get that many teams in. Even if that team is 14 and 18, you're in. That's what they're going to do. They're going to set up the locks. It's not going to change the bubble. It's not going to change the amount of smaller teams in there. It's just they're going to guarantee so many teams, and then the rest are going to be at large. That's what it's going to be. You're going to have 40 teams and then 36 at large teams. And that's what it's going to be.
Actually, right now it's, I think, 31 and 37.
Well, that takes care of
it now becomes 31 and 45. I mean, ugh.
Right. So that's that. So you're going to have that guarantee in it. So the money's going to be split. Everybody's happy with the money. Look at college football with the playoffs. I love the playoffs. And they tried to, over the years it was about, no, we can't make a playoffs because they're student athletes and they got exams, and then it was the bullshit about the bowls, the integrity of the bowls. And now what do we have? We have some solid games that you see, exhibition type of games with half the teams, those teams that half the players don't play in.
Correct.
And then you have a third of the bowls, if not more, are teams that are like, again, we're not picking on App State or Georgia Southern or anybody like that. But those teams are now playing against teams that are losing records in bowl games.
Yep.
For what? For what are you doing it for? Do you really think that Poulin or some dog food that you're trying to represent, Pop-Tart guys, which I think is entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay?
Pop-Tart bowl, baby.
Cheez-Its, getting the Cheez-It bath, whatever it may be. But I get all that. But there's some of the bowls that are out there. I'm like, why would you throw money at this? 95 people show up in the stands, and even the most staunch college football fan has a hard time digesting this. And so what's going to happen is they're going to get more money, but someday somebody's going to say, you know what? I don't think it's worth me putting my advertising dollars and attaching it to some playing game in Dayton on True TV. What am I doing here? Why am I doing this?
Instead of
it doesn't make any
2 nights, you're
sense.
going to have 4 nights or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Maybe even it starts even more than that. Who knows? But the idea is that all of it doesn't make any sense other than the fact that they're trying to find more revenue streams. When they hit the jackpot 5-10 years ago, they got enough. How much money do they need? I mean, I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that because nobody's going broke.
Right.
Nobody's going broke. And what they're going to say, I guarantee it, they're going to say, what happens. It's not our fault. We have to pay the players now. And everybody gets paid. So guess what? We need more money. So don't tell us how to do our business. Well, I am, because I think it's dumb. I think you're giving us a product unworthy of saying you're part of the championship. And by the way, if I'm the NIT, I'm pissed off. Here I am. I don't just give me the leftovers, and now I can't even get the leftovers. I only get the leftover broccoli. It's basically
going to become a mid-major tournament.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
Which it was this year, and there were only a couple of, power conference teams in it, and one of those power conference teams happened to win it all. There's a shock.
When does it come about where maybe the NIT gets a good sponsor and says, we're going to go buy 4 teams? Hey, you got it. They're going to be on that bottom level of the thing. No, hey guys, look, you don't have to take the invitation. Why don't you just say no and come play in the NIT, and then see what those 76 to 70 teams are doing. Oh, what do you mean you don't want to play in our tournament? No, I really don't. I don't want to be in obscurity. I want to hang a banner. Maybe I'll get to do that. Here, all I'm going to do is I'm just being fed to the lions. Off with his head and throw him into the lion bin. That's what they're doing. So I think it's stupid. But you know what? Anybody could, if somebody looked at me and said, "Yeah, I'm stupid, but I'm going to the bank with $1 billion," I'd say, "Okay, maybe I'm stupid." So that's who knows.
Well said, John. Well said. All right, let's move on. NHL playoffs. They have been, for the most part, really good. There are a couple of teams that have forgotten to even lick the stamp before they mailed it in. Boston Bruins. But our Tampa Bay Lightning were on the deck. They were down 2-1 after a third game that went to overtime, and Montreal ended up winning that game 3-2 Friday night. So Sunday it's 2-1, and Montreal's up 2-0. And we're getting late in the second period. And the Lightning, one of their defensemen, I would even say probably bottom 2 defensemen, lays out Montreal's star, I never say his name right. Number 20. How about that? All right.
That's it.
Lays him out. And I mean, legal hit, didn't leave his feet, didn't go anywhere near his head. It was in his chest. That seemed to wake the Lightning up, because for a game and a half in Montreal, they were playing like they were in a malaise. Yeah, they lost in overtime in game 3, but they really got their asses kicked, John. You watch that game from start to finish. The Lightning were going to have the luckiest goal to win, and Vasilevsky did an unbelievable job getting them to overtime. How many odd man rushes, breakaways, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s that Montreal didn't score on? But that hit seemed to change the series. They get a late goal in the second period from Jake Gensel. Kucherov, who really for the first 5+ periods in Montreal was serving more turnovers than your local Denny's.
Yeah.
Started to play very well, started to play a little headier, slowed the game down a little bit. Couple of plays with him and Hagel, the pass on the power play. And actually, it's really funny, John, because, they got the tying goal. They got it was a perfect pass from Kucherov to Hagel. Hagel didn't even have to move his stick. He just basically deflected it in the net wide open.
It hit him.
And at that point, I'm going, I almost thought that was a negative, because the Lightning are a lot of times too cute for themselves, and they were a lot in Montreal. Pass the puck. They had a 5-on-3 where they had one shot on goal because they're just passing the puck around the perimeter, passing the puck around the perimeter. Oh, no, I can get a better shot than that. Sometimes just getting some pucks on the net, good things could happen, albeit the winning goal where Kucherov flings the puck towards the net. It goes off a Hagel and into the net. Dirty goals are as good as pretty goals. They're all goals, and the Lightning are back in the series at 2-2 heading to the game on Wednesday night when they were literally close to being dead.
I thought watching the game, the game 4, you're right. They were too cute. They play to the crowd. So I'll give you this. Canadian hockey fans, they get into their when they get loud, dude, they get loud. And you can see the enthusiasm in the stands. They are on there. They're on it. They're good, very knowledgeable fans. Yep. But you can see that those players they play to that crowd. They're like, we're going to shut this crowd up. Watch this. No, play the game. Play the game the way it needs to be played. I thought you mentioned about the hit, but I thought the hit on Kucherov right before the goal where that
was dirty,
boarded, right? He got
cross-checked and then boarded,
right. And then he kind of got up a little game but then the crowd was booing him when he was going off the ice because they thought he was faking or whatever he was. And then, but he came back out, and when he came, he didn't even miss a shift. He came back out there, and he was again another gear. And I'm not saying just about speed, but the intent and playing the game the way it needs to be played in playoffs. He turned it on. I think you're right. Game 5 is crucial.
Yes.
As much as 4 was crucial, Rich, I think 5 is equally as crucial. You don't want to go back.
Winner gets to be literally in the driver's seat.
Right. You don't want to go back to Montreal in that spot and have to win back-to-back game 6 and then 7 back at home. So I think game 5 is crucial. And I think how you win game 5 can be a tone setter. Not overtime, not sloppy goal, a good 5-2 win and show them that you're the better team. I heard something local today, or maybe it was yesterday, stating that they were concerned that the Lightning were going to be tired because of this series. It's the first series of the NHL playoffs. They better not be tired.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like saying, hey, you know what? It's a marathon, but those first 4 miles are killer. You got 22 more to go.
Right.
If you're gonna go anywhere, if you're a championship level team, you better not run out of gas in the first round, no matter who you play.
Not only that, John, they've had 2 instances in this series where they've had 2 days off.
Right. They're
between
fine.
Games. So if you're tired, that means you're getting old.
You're done. You're done now.
You gotta reset the whole thing. So that'll be must-watch TV on Wednesday night. If you're watching this after Wednesday, you probably already know what happened, and we could sound like complete idiots, but
who knows, right?
That's what podcasts are all about. The other great series is actually going on as we record. Dallas and Minnesota's even at 2 games apiece. Minnesota won in overtime. Game 4 to send it back to Dallas even, and after they're in the early part of that game, and it's 1-1. I mean, this is as good as the Montreal-Tampa Bay series has been. This has been a tremendous series, and you truly, in this case, with Colorado being in the same division, and Colorado swept away the Kings and are just sitting back and saying, beat the crap out of each other, play 6 games, play 7 games, and we'll let you come to our place, the night after you win game 7, and we'll see how that works out. One of the true Stanley Cup contenders, probably one of the top 5 contenders, is going to be lost with the loser of that Minnesota-Dallas series. And it just has all kinds of juicy storylines. Of course, Dallas used to be the Minnesota North Stars, so there's a lot of animosity in Minnesota against the Stars. These 2 teams don't like each other, and it's been proven. But it's been tremendous hockey. I've watched a lot of that series. I'll turn it on as soon as we're done here because I'll watch some NBA. I have the Knicks game on as we speak, but I am a hockey playoff guy, and this is about as juicy a first round series as you can get.
Yeah, and again, playoff hockey doesn't matter who's wearing the sweater. If it's a good series, you're watching, and you can tell sometimes when teams are moving and how going back a little bit. We talked about predicting and who we thought was going to win and whatever else. I've been watching Edmonton. I've always been an Edmonton fan, going back to Gretzky and Messier and that unbelievably talented, fantastic Stanley Cup teams. Edmonton is a team I watch, and I'm like, man, if they get their act together, they're going to be, and they're on a mission. They definitely are. I think they have a purpose to what they're doing.
Well, they better get going because
I know
they're down 3-1 to the team with the ugliest uniforms in pro sports. What Anaheim is trotting out there, and people used to make fun when they were the Mighty Ducks and the Disney thing and all that. What did somebody just go? I'm just going to spill some paint, roll these uniforms into this whatever freaking color it is. Is it fuchsia? Is it? I don't even know.
It's a weird colored red that I don't know what it is. But again, it's silly. But I'm going back to what I was saying. I look at a team like that and I see something similar to what the Lightning are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You got Connor McDavid, you got Drysdale, you got the different guys that are on this team. They're loaded with talent, and they're just not. They fly around. They look great on certain situations, and then what happens is they forget that it's playoff hockey, and you got to go out and just throw. It's an equalizer in some ways. You know what I mean? The format, everything. It's a bit of an equalizer, and they got to realize that it's an effort scenario. It's putting pucks in the net. It's out. It's not about. It looks great, but you've got to just go out there and put it out there. So Edmonton and Tampa, to me, very similar and very big games coming up this week that I think are going to be highly entertaining.
One big difference between Edmonton and Tampa. Tampa has a Vasilevsky. Edmonton has a problem in goal. They've given up 6 and 7 in 2 of the 4 games of the series so far. That's brutal.
That is rough. That's hard to get over. There's no doubt about that.
Philadelphia got up 3-0 on Pittsburgh, and the Penguins have had a couple of gritty wins. So they are back in that series at 3-2. Buffalo is trying to finish off Boston as we record, and they have an early lead in that game. The Sabres, after 2 pretty subpar games, at least for their standing in Buffalo, where they were lucky to get a split, went to Boston and took care of business. 3-1 in Game 3 and 6-1 in Game 4, which they led 4-0 after 1, and had basically players in the Boston locker room, particularly their goalie, Jeremy Swayman, basically questioning the effort of the team. Well, Buffalo took, like I said, 2 road games, outscored Boston 9-2, fabled TD Garden. They had no fear at all. And look, they finished this thing off. They wait for the winner of the Lightning Canadiens, and they're saying the same thing. Good guys, beat the crap out of each other, and we'll you can come to Buffalo for Game 1 two days after you wrap up that series.
No doubt about it, and that's going to be, no matter who gets there, it's going to be a really good series.
I agree. Vegas and Utah are 2-2. Vegas blew a 3-0 lead on Monday. Utah was up 4-3. Vegas tied it late and won in overtime. And as we mentioned earlier, Colorado and Carolina finished off 4-game sweeps of the LA Kings and Ottawa. And both those teams are just sitting back. And if they have any nicks or anything from the first series, they're getting plenty of rest. And that's the old rest versus rust thing that gets talked about.
I'm more of a believer about the rust. I think there's usually some rust to kick off when you're not in that groove. So we'll see.
All right, NBA playoffs. We got something interesting going on in our backyard, if you will. The Orlando Magic, who I left completely dead. My lock a couple of weeks ago. They're not getting out of the play-in. and they lost the first game in Philadelphia. They did take care of Charlotte. They've clearly been the better team in this series so far, especially down the stretch. The 2 games in Orlando, perfect example. Detroit takes a 105-104 lead with about a minute and a half to go in game 3. With the series tied a game apiece, the Magic score the last 9 points and win the game 113-105. Then on Monday, we're playing a tight game. I believe it was tied at like 85 late in the fourth quarter. And then the Pistons go on the top-seeded 60-win Pistons go on a 4-minute scoring drought in the final 4:30 of the game and lose. And they're literally on the brink. And the Magic, who have underachieved all year long, finally have decided to play, if not for their coach, for themselves.
So, Rich, if you remember when Matt Geller was on a few weeks ago, and he asked about it, and I said, I'm not feeling Detroit.
Yes.
Who was on that team? Tell me who I'm supposed to be afraid of.
Well, Cade Cunningham is a one-man band. He's been a one-man band in this series. And if he doesn't get help, Matt, I'm sorry. I know you love watching our podcast. By the time you watch this, it could be done. I
am not sold on Detroit. They're not there yet. They have athletes. So what I'm kind of got this thing now, like, well, I watch an NBA game and I'm like, okay, watching the Magic, I'm like, who's that guy? I don't remember this guy. And I don't like it when I see like the story of a player. This could be anybody. Out of high school, he decides he's going to sign up with some travel ball thingamajiggy. He goes overseas for a year. He comes back and he does a G League thing, goes into the draft, whatever he does, comes out, no real experience playing it in tight scenarios where college basketball gives you that sort of that idea of how to play the game and playing in different pressure situations. And I watch these guys and Rich, all they do is try to get fouled going into the lane. They have no.
Uh-oh.
Do you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So can you see me?
There you are. There you are.
What the heck was that? That was like a whiteout.
That's technology, my friend. Technology.
Oh my God, it scared the hell out of me. But anyway, but these guys, and then they'll get the ball and they'll just they go around in circles and they just chuck it at the basket. And it's like I'm watching this. I'm like, who is this kid? Oh, him and his brother. They decided that they didn't go there and they did some other thing. It's like you see guys on these rosters that are starters that are phenomenal athletes. I just don't know if they're players, which is why a guy like Steph Curry is so valuable and a guy like LeBron is valuable, because right now the younger players, look at Cooper Flagg. He's an all-around basketball player, right? Mm-hmm. Who is the guy who came in second in the
Rookie of the
year? Han Knipple, right?
Yep.
Another guy who played at Duke.
They were teammates.
Right. I just don't get these pathways that these guys are taking. Now, granted, there's good players. I just don't see the type of players that are playoff ready type of players. Mm-hmm. Tobias Harris for the Pistons might be their second best player. What is he, 15 years in the league? Or something along those lines?
A little bit, and if he's your second best player, that's
and they're
tough.
saying, they had 60 wins. Right, they did. They did.
Remind me of my Cavs last year.
But they're not. They're just. It's not a playoff team. It's just not. And a matter of fact, they are. I mean, they are a playoff team. They look like They look like the 8 seed.
Yes. Well said.
They look like the 8 seed, and that's what. If you look at that game and said, who the first 10 minutes of the game last night with the Magic, they took a lead and then they just sort of became a typical NBA game where the middle didn't matter. Then they played the last 5 minutes like crazy people again. So anyway, but I don't see it, and that's what I kept on saying. Tell me who the Pistons have. everybody's like, how did Boston come from nowhere? They got superstars on that team. They got basketball players. There's a difference, big difference. So interesting.
Minnesota. Now, remember, I told you at the beginning, I thought Minnesota had a chance to beat Denver.
Yeah, and they do.
Well, no, I don't think so. Because unfortunately, when your starting backcourt gets injured, DiVincenzo with an Achilles and Edwards with a knee strain that's going to keep him out a couple of weeks, I just don't think they can get the horse to the barn. I know it was 3-1. Now it's 3-2 after Denver won Monday night, 126-113. The T-Wolves, again, one of those teams underachieves in the regular season and plays well in the playoffs, and they were on their way. They were on their way until the injury bug hit them. Even though Denver's down 3-2 in the series and going to Minnesota, they're actually the betting favorite in the series. That should tell you all you need to know what's going on in that one. Boston is trying to go ahead.
This Minnesota team reminds me of another team, the Minnesota Timberwolves of Kevin Garnett years.
Oh yeah.
Because they would sniff around, they kind of did this, and then they just didn't have the next gear. Garnett got tired of it and forced his way to the Celtics. Mm-hmm. And what was his last big thing he screamed about when he had the ball in his hand? Garnett, anything is possible.
Right.
That became a commercial for whatever shoe he was wearing. But anyway, the idea is that I see a lot of similarities there. The star players, the star player out, the star player trying to carry the team. He's not consistent enough to do it. It's a tough road. If they could sneak a game off in Denver and win the series, they'll be out quickly in the next round.
Absolutely. You would think that San Antonio's kind of frothing at the mouth,
waiting
with an opportunity, because San Antonio is going to put, as we speak, they're getting ready to play the Trailblazers. Trailblazers at a 15-point lead in that game in the second quarter. In Game 4, San Antonio won by 21. Wemby just needed to get a little warmed up after face planting in Game 2. So gentlemen sweep likely there. Celtics, as I mentioned, trying to close out the Sixers, having a little bit of trouble as we speak. Knicks and Hawks are playing at the Garden. That's been an interesting series. It's tied at 2, John, and yet the Knicks have really outplayed the Hawks most of the series. They won 2 one-point games, the Hawks did, while the Knicks, in their 2 wins, have basically blown the Hawks out. So, 8 points in the first game.
The Knicks tend to beat themselves, Rich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They sort of get themselves and I don't want to say, but they get very sort of erratic in their play. You know what I mean? When I think they're a very good half-court team. My feeling is, and if they don't get in the right sets and they don't get they start putting up really bad shots. They've got some good athletes that can go and crash the boards and do things for them. Really, their scoring is going to come from Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns for the most part. But
he's been very good in this series, by the way.
Yeah, and I like to see it because he's always said how good he is. I get him credit. He's very he thinks a lot of himself. But if he can prove it, a big man who can shoot from the outside like that, I think that's a hard thing to stop.
The other series that's tied at 2, surprisingly, is Cavs and Raptors. Cavs won the first 2 games pretty comfortably in Cleveland and had leads in Games 3, but more importantly, in Game 4, they had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter, went ice cold, and the Raptors end up winning both the home games. So that's a series that's 2-all. Knicks and Hawks are 2-all, and those 2 teams are 2 series, I think. No. I'm screwed up here. Cavs and Raptors are going to play. Cavs and Raptors. Okay, they're the 4-5. If Orlando finishes things off, the winner of this series gets Orlando. And you would think at some point the bubble will burst, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but Orlando is they were a hot team early. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now you look at Orlando and you say, okay, this is the team that we thought would have been finished 3rd, 4th, 5th seed. You know what I mean? And they're playing like it. They've got they got a nice looking team. I thought they played really well last night, and I think they're going to wrap it up and at the most 6. I think but I think they can win it in 5. I think Detroit looked a little forlorn, I guess you would say. They had long faces. They didn't look ready for it for sure.
Again, Matt, that's him talking, okay? Him.
Yes.
Anyway, and then the other series, OKC finished off Phoenix in a sweep. No surprise there. They look like they're primed and ready to defend their title.
They're good.
And they get the winner of Lakers Rockets. Lakers won the first 3 games of that series. Rockets came back in game 4. Kevin Durant, 3 of the 4 games doesn't play. Again, Michael Jordan would have had to have his hand cut off for him not to play, and then he would have played one-handed still.
Buyer beware.
Yep, there you go.
Buyer beware.
Perfectly said.
He excelled at OKC when he had Westbrook and what's his name, the beard,
James Harden.
Mm-hmm. And goes and puts himself on the Warriors, gets his championships, and has been on this sort of slow roll into the Hall of Fame, if you want to call it that, by being a guy who's 7 feet tall and can shoot and jump the way he does. He better average over 20 points a game.
Sure.
And so he's not an underachiever. He's just he's a frustrating achiever.
Yeah.
There's so much.
If I'm a Rockets fan, I'm like, dude, you got to go out there. I mean, and game 3, he wasn't even on the bench, John.
I don't understand any of it. I don't understand it.
I don't know.
And why would you want him on your team? I don't get it. Houston had a nice little thing going there. They're building a team, and you throw him in there, and has it been worth it? I don't think anybody can say that's been worth it that has gotten him over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Agree. Can't argue with that. All right, so the NBA playoffs moving along. Next time we are here, most of the series will be done, and we'll be getting close to round 2. Golf, a very cool story. The PGA's had a ton of cool stories this year, John. They really have. The Gary Woodward thing, the Rory repeating at the Masters, just a lot of 4th round comebacks. But this story here is kind of really cool. And how about one brother doing something for the other brother that I don't think he can ever pay him back for?
No, that's what you want. Listen, the game of golf, obviously you can play it till you're 115 years old if you want to, right? There's all levels of you can play from different tees and and all different stuff, play different games, play match play, you name it. There's a lot of things to watch. However, one of the things that I find about golfers is that they're very charitable. They get the principles of the game, why you play a certain way. You have your own, you call your own penalties against yourself, that kind of thing, right? And what happened was with this whole live thing that sort of shook things up, right? Mm-hmm. Live took guys that were the opposite of that. They went against the grain. Everybody was, what about me? I'll take the money. What about this? I don't want to do whatever it was. And granted, they had a very few amount or a handful amount of valid points about the game and expanding certain things or whatever it was, but it didn't come across as they were doing it for everybody. It came down to singularity. It came down to just about me. Mm-hmm. And most people think that all golfers are just about themselves. Now it's a single sport. You don't play as a team per se.
Not often.
Mm-hmm. Right. But here's the thing. For as much of it individuality there is to it, it's a culture that you get involved with golf. Okay. It's not the game per se against the other guy. It's the culture of the game. And the guys that went off and took the money and ran didn't see that culture there. They didn't see it. And what kept on happening, Rich, surprise, surprise, good stories keep happening from around the PGA. We're developing new superstars and new names. All it takes, remember, you watch a golf tournament, you can watch it for 4 days. Most of the time you watch it for 2. After 2, you're like, hey, that guy's pretty good.
Yep.
I'll remember his name. And by the way, who was the guy who won back? Who was that Spanish guy who won a couple of years ago? What, Jerry Richards? Or, no, it's J.R. something. Oh, it's John Rahm. Oh, yeah. Why? Because you don't watch you anymore, John Rahm. You're not winning anything that matters. And then when you show up to these to different events, you're in the mix once in a while, but not so much. And when you have opportunity to come back or do the right thing, or they give you an opportunity to get points so you can play Ryder Cup, you go against the grain. It all adds up, Rich. It all adds up to this. So these great stories that keep happening are because it's golf is a 4-day event. It's a season-long situation. You can see these stories develop in a short window, like a mini series, in a 4-day scenario, or over a season, or in a very dramatic fashion in a major or whatever it may be. All things that have never changed, and it'll be 10 years from now, we'll be talking about the next great ones as well. And that's how it works. That's what golf is, and people are just now figuring it out.
Well, the Fitzpatrick brothers who we're talking about, Matt Fitzpatrick, who's had himself a nice year already. Him and his brother Alex played in the team event in New Orleans. I think, what is it, the Zurich?
Zurich.
I guess. Yeah. And they birdied 18. They didn't exactly set the world on fire on Sunday. 71 in a team event's not exactly great, but it was good enough to win by one. And with the victory, they got 200 FedEx points each. Yeah, that's cool. Obviously, they won the lion's share of the purse. That's pretty cool. I think they split, what, 1.6 million, 1.4 million?
Yeah, I think you're pretty close, yeah.
And then, but the coolest thing, Matt's obviously had himself a year already and has really had himself a nice career. He's starting to really round into shape. But with the win, his brother Alex gets a 2-year tour card. Now, it's not a full tour card, if you will. He does get to play in all the signature events for the remainder of this season. That's pretty good. Those are basically guaranteed money events.
Absolutely.
The way they have it set up now. He also gets to play in the PGA in a couple of weeks, which I think is awesome. He gets a chance to go to a major. He also gets to get into the Players next year, which, again, the golfers, that's the unofficial 5th major. And with all these opportunities, he also gets his card for the 2nd year. And if he can win an event here or there, he qualifies for the Masters, US Open. I just think it's a very cool story. Would you get your brother for Christmas or Father's Day or whatever?
Yeah.
I got my brother a tour card.
and a $500,000.
Yep.
When it's all said and done. And there you go. You're off and running. And so, yeah, I mean, all those things are just, like, again, it's just a story that you hear over and over again, and these really cool stories. Look, a golfer's career is not guaranteed to be 20 years. I would probably bet you that it's probably similar to what an NFL player is, 3.5 years, where you have a meteoric. I mean, you might get on you see a guy, he wins a tournament, he stays around, he struggles for a couple of years, and at 35, he puts his clubs up and says, "I'm going to go be the pro at the local private club at home," that kind of thing. But still, it allows for fresh blood. It allows for new stories, and I enjoy it every week for sure.
All right, there you have it. There's the golf, and of course, like I said, a couple of weeks they are they in Valhalla this year? Is that where the PGA is? I'm trying to remember.
Gosh.
I'll have to look it up. See, I didn't fact check myself. I
don't think it's in Valhalla. I think it is in the U.S. Open is at Shinnecock, and
this is
PGA
starts the day after my birthday, actually. Newtown Square, PA at Aronimink. It's a pretty well known. Am I saying it wrong? Yeah.
Ironic. I forget. I can't say it either.
Aronimink.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's near Philadelphia.
Yeah, tough course.
Pretty good course. So yeah, and so look forward to seeing Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick at that event. All right, it's time for Locks of the Week. I finally got off the schneid. I was on a sales spin. and I took Detroit. I said, whatever the spread is against Orlando, game 2, I felt they would bounce back. And for a half, I was like, what in the world's going on? It was tied at halftime, I think.
Yes, it was.
46. And then Detroit just finally put their gas. It's their best quarter of the series, and you could argue it could be their only really, really good quarter of the series so
Bad
far.
shooting. They're not a good shooting team. So that's hard to say that you're the 1 seed and you're a bad shooting team.
All right. So that moved my record to 17-14. And we already talked about the fact that you thought there would be, and I thought so too, there would only be one quarterback taken in the first round. And then, of course, we already talked about Ty Simpson. So your record now is still a very good 19-12. You would definitely be on the side of the over
in the money
percentage. You're in the money, even with the vig and the juice. So
yeah.
All right, it's time for What's Bugging Me, our final segment of the program. You've kind of teased yours a little bit.
Oh, we didn't do the locks. What's our picks?
Oh, that's right. Heck, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to say Philadelphia closes out Pittsburgh in Game 6.
Okay.
Of that series. Philly led 3-0. Pittsburgh's won the last 2. I like Philly to close that out in Pittsburgh, by the way. Or no, is it?
Gotcha.
No, it's in Philly. It's in Philly. Sorry. Philly wins the series in 6.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a similar thing, but only in basketball. I think that the Knicks have found their mojo. I think they win tonight, and I think that they will win. Do I need to say 6, or can I just say win the series?
It's whatever your lock is, my friend. If you just say
they're going to win the series, I think they're going to. It could be 6, but I'd rather just say they're going to win the series on this one because I think that for as good as the Knicks play or have been playing, they always manage to throw a clunker in there, and it's weird when it happens. So
they threw 2 in the series. So
come back to the Garden and win it, and then we'll see how they go from there. So Knicks win the series.
So you got the Knicks winning the series. I have the Flyers finishing off the Penguins, and I'm going to say it's going to happen in the next game, in Game 6. All right, now it's time for What's Bugging Me. I got this burrito sitting over here waiting to be devoured here.
Well,
I'll go first. I'll go first, and I'm going to go back to something that we talked about a little earlier, and that's the expansion of the NCAA basketball tournament. And by the way, it's not just the men's tournament; it's the women's tournament too.
Of course, when was
the last time the women's tournament, which by the way was expanded from 64 to 68, just like the men's tournament? I know nobody really knows because you get no upsets in that tournament. So expanding the women's tournament does what?
I don't know.
0. This year again, all 4 number 1 seeds. The men had it last year, but again, this year there was only 2 won and 2 lost. And that's generally about what it is usually in the men's tournament.
Yeah.
1 or 2 number 1 seeds get through and the other 2 don't. Whereas in the women's tournament, you don't need any extra games. It's just, again, it's a money grab. You and I both talked about it. It's a money grab. It's going to expand. I mean, I'm interested to see when they finally vote on this, and apparently it's supposed to happen sometime late in May around Memorial Day. I wonder how this is going to actually happen, because are you going to mess with the integrity of the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, first round, second round? You almost have to think it has to be.
Have to, right? You have to. And I'm telling you what they're going to do. I can feel it. Just like they screwed the draft up, they're going to spread it out. It's not going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. It's going to be Tuesday. You name it. Watch the shit that they pull on this. They're going to. Why? If everybody can watch it now. Hey, isn't it better that when you're watching the Sweet 16, there's not another game going on at the same time or whatever it's going to be? They're going to create some scenario that's supposed to be better for everybody, and they're not. And it's just not. It's just not. It's just there's something too about the March Madness, and they just do that. By the way, real quick, when you said about the women's basketball and expanding that thing as well, have you ever sat down and watched a 1-16 matchup in women's college basketball tournament?
Yeah, it usually ends up like 113 to 39. It's usually a slaughter.
Half the shots are air balls, or they hit the bottom of the rim on a layup.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that you're going to expand that? Come on. At some point in time, you would think that you wouldn't even want to have the 116 team. It's that large of a difference. It's not even. I could tell you this. In my lifetime, if I see a 16 team seed win over a 1 in women's basketball, I will have seen it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the lock of the century.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking as you're talking how they're gonna do this. Are we gonna have 4 games that are 16 versus 16? I mean, you almost think, and then you're gonna have 4 either 11 versus 11 or 10 versus 10, or I mean, it's mind numbing. What and again, for what? I mean, I'm not going to be watching. I don't watch as it is now. I barely watched, and listen, Texas went to the Sweet 16. Good on them. Okay. They went from the first 4 to the Sweet 16. Congratulations. Only reason I watched that game is because Vital and Barkley were doing the game. That's the only thing.
Right.
And whereas I usually watch games with the sound down, I watched that game with the sound up. That was the only difference.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't need to see a 16-16 game. And I really, these 4 teams that made it in, now we're going to have 8 teams that were on the bubble. And again, Auburn at 17 and 16 would have been in one of those games.
I just don't see it. It's just everything about it doesn't make any sense to me. But again, it's just, I just feel like it's about guaranteed money for the conferences, slotted so many teams, and then your rest are at large. And that's what they're going to do.
All right, John, you're up.
Okay, going back to it again. Go to the draft. Let's be real specific. The Ty Simpson pick with the Los Angeles Rams. I mentioned before about the process of the draft. Why would you take a guy? And let's go to all the. You have all the analytics in the world. The guy's had 15 starts. Okay, and nobody. There's like in the history of the quarterbacking. Guy with 15 starts doesn't do well in the NFL. Okay,
Anthony Richardson.
This guy is going to go sit on the bench for 2 or 3 years. So he over an 8-year career, starting with college, he will have played in 15 football games as a starter, and he's supposed to be the guy that you anoint, like some seamless thing you're going to do from Stafford to him. This is the plan. Okay. On top of everything else, one other thing that I think it really kind of proves out about why it was a mistake. If he didn't go into the draft, okay, Alabama didn't want him back.
Correct.
He was going to go out and play at Miami for some good money. Don't get me wrong, but Alabama didn't want him back. Why did Alabama not want him back? Okay,
he wasn't that good.
You don't even have to answer the question. We know why. Because if he was good, he would be there. Okay. Right. So just that alone, I'd have to ask that question. Was it asked? I don't think so. So now we go back to where we were. They take him at 13. You could have dropped back with probably nobody. Look at the team.
Steelers at 21, maybe.
That would have been a shock as much as the Rams taking him would have been a shock, my opinion. Okay. Because he's not that good. That's really what it comes down to as well. So anyway, then all the backstories. Well, what do you know? Ty Simpson's dad is a personal friend of Snead, the GM at the Rams. He told his buddy that his son was a first-round draft pick. Maybe he thinks he was. Maybe he was blowing smoke up his ass. I don't know what he was doing. But that's a weird situation, right? Then the pick is made. Right away, controversy. The only people who were like the pundits were the ones that were saying, oh, you're overlooking Ty Simpson. He's a really good player. Congratulations, Dan Orlovsky. You see something with Ty Simpson that nobody else sees. You were right. But doesn't you being right about him getting drafted doesn't mean anything to me. And the other thing was he even predicted he was going to go to the Rams. Orlovsky did, and some of these guys did. So they already knew something. This was already out in the world, the Netherland of NFL rumor mill. It was out there. Okay. which I didn't get either. Why would it be out there? Why is this a situation that they needed to tell somebody? And the other tell was, why would a guy who everybody thought wasn't going to get drafted show up in New York to sit in a room and be made fun of? He knew he was getting picked. Yeah. He knew it. He knew it at 13 that it was going to happen. He knew it. So my opinion was, so how does this all take place? So then you start finding out the conversation. Oh, well, we never talked to him until this time. I never did this. Yeah, I talked to his dad and everything else. This is a convoluted, screwed up mess of shit that should never have happened. Okay? And
tell me what you really feel.
Ultimately, it goes against all the rules in the draft. It goes against all the analytics out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to the fact that his own college team didn't want him back. So why would you take him when you are one game, not even a game, a few points away for being in the Super Bowl, and you probably would have won that game?
And you need cornerbacks, not quarterbacks, cornerbacks.
And so why would you go ahead? And on top of everything else, Rich, you have the most talent-laden group of quarterbacks to come out, maybe since 83 coming out. Names. If you wanted a guy why would you couldn't finagle your way back up into getting a guy if you wanted to? Sure you could. If you want somebody bad enough and it's worth the skin, especially if it's a quarterback, then my goodness, you could have done it. So my point is, terrible draft strategy, the wrong player, from a production perspective, the wrong player for the team in general. McVay was pissed. Look, Stafford is guaranteed is pissed. He's 38, and you took us backup, and maybe not even his back, because you heard what McVay said. He'll fight it out with Stetson for the backup job. That's right there. And then McVay comes back and says, well, I was just sticking up for my boy, Matt. I wanted to, make him know I had his back.
Yes, and he's the unquestioned leader of this team. Yeah.
I thought everybody was on board, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back the next day and said, this is my boy. We're good. No, he's your boss. He's your boss. He's not your boy. And you've already made it very clear to everybody that you're not long for the NFL. A couple more years, another championship, and you're going to want to get a job in the studio or play games for Fox, whatever you want to do. So he supersedes you. Here's the first time that Sean McVay didn't get what he wanted, and it's happening on the way to a potential season where you might win a championship. And what you got, what you get for it? You got McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs for on a draft pick, and you got a backup quarterback, maybe. Ridiculous, just stupid as stupid could be. And they're going to keep on coming out and telling you how wonderful it is, and it's not going to be. And you wait, Rich. If he's not the guy, somebody on that team is going to say it. Maybe they can whisper in Diana Rossini's ear now that she's not. Mike Vrabel anymore.
Oh boy.
So and that story right there is to be continued. Also, I really think this might be a messed up season for the. I think this is the kind of stuff that poisons the well, man. It poisons the well. That's what
they're talking about up here. Being in Massachusetts,
dude, especially in that town. You know that. Yeah. Those towns, they eat that shit up. And he is going to be it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal. I'm telling you. It's gonna be this minutes that things start going south, and I don't buy it. And I think, by the way, I was being a little bit rude, but her career is ruined as well. She's I think she's done. Yeah, she's done.
Yeah.
And that's sad, because that you're when that's all you've done and you're in your mid 40s, that's a tough way to look at life after a little while. You have to be, maybe she can join a podcast. 941 Sports Zone can use maybe a female correspondent.
There we go. I'll put the feelers out.
Let's see.
That was the wrong terminology. Oh.
Well, anyway. I knew what you were saying. There was a pun in there somewhere. You didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, double entendre. No way. John, we're done.
All right.
The usual amount of time. It's unreal.
Yeah, we're a minute under.
Yeah. Well, by the time we say our goodbyes and everything,
yeah, we'll be over.
Should be back regular time next week. Kentucky Derby week. I was a renegade guy until he drew the rail. Now I don't know who I'm on, John. I really don't. So you'll be down in the Keys watching.
I'll be watching it. It's always a big deal down there. They love it on the Derby days. Be going in all the bars. Everybody's watching, so it'll be fun, no doubt about it.
It'll be a lot of fun. So, all right, we're out of here. John's headed to the Keys, as it says on his moniker. He'll be back next Monday, as will I. Hopefully, we'll be back on our regular slot. Probably going to be a little later for the live version for the next few weeks, as my schedule's kind of taking a little bit of a change.
It's all good.
But it's still going to be on Mondays. That's our goal. We appreciate you. Again, like us on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe. We're on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, anywhere you get a podcast, you can find us here at the 941 Sports Zone. For John, I'm Spitz. Until next week, bye-bye from Highlight.
See ya.